Hey guys, it's Emma from Tea and a Good Book, and today we are doing Rush Limbaugh commemoration.
Rush Limbaugh, in addition to being a political commentator, also became a children's author because he wanted children to know the history of the United States in a fun and friendly way. In addition to that, he also sold tea. On his program, he used to peddle Snapple tea, and then when he wanted to show how entrepreneurship can be done in America, he made his own tea called 2 If Buy Tea. We just looked on Amazon. It has been discontinued now.
But if you want to buy it for $3,000 for one bottle on eBay, be our guest.
But you can get it if you're willing to spend a whole lot of money because it's now a collector's item. So let's show them the books that he wrote. Emma's got all his books.
The first book that he released was Rush Revere and the Brave Pilgrims.
This is a book about a man modeled after Rush who's a substitute teacher with a talking horse. He goes around in full colonial garb all the time so that he can go back in history with his magical horse and explore.
His students. So he has main students, and actually have it opened to a page. So they actually take his face and put it onto an animated type character, which I thought was a little interesting at first.
We started reading these books when Emma was, maybe 6.
Yeah.
And she absolutely loved the talking horse. She didn't much care for the books her age. These are actually written for about 10 to 12-year-olds to read on their own. Emma's 11 now.
Yeah.
And she still reads them.
So actually, we thought this was something that we might want to show. I read Rush Revere and the Star-Spangled Banner so much, and you can actually see it. The pages literally have come out of place. That's about 4 or so chapters of Rush Revere and the Star-Spangled Banner.
She read the book to death.
Literally. This Star-Spangled Banner was my favorite out of the series, and you can actually tell that it's not real. And then we also have Rush Revere and the First Patriots, and Rush Revere and the Presidency, which was his latest book.
Now, when we went to the Rush Revere website and expressed our joy at how much Emma loved these books,
Liberty!
They sent us a Liberty doll. Liberty is the talking horse who is able to go back and forth in time and actually did originate in the time of George Washington.
And he was zapped by a bolt of lightning, which sent him to the 21st century.
And gave him magical powers.
So here is the crew. This was a sticker that I got in the mail that I turned into a coaster. I did a little bit of DIYing there.
And Emma actually got a phone call from a crew member of the Rush Revere show talking to her about how much she liked the program.
And then they sent me another Liberty doll.
And a shirt. Now, if you're worried that these books have a political slant, they don't. They're written strictly in children's book style. Rush's wife, Kathy, co-wrote the books with him. So it's not actually, there's not a Republican slant or a right slant or a conservative slant. It's just sort of a fun slant. And it would be appropriate for the children of people who don't believe as Rush does, as long as they wanted to enjoy American history.
So they are very long books, and it isn't just funny. It actually explains everything that was in history. You have your first two-party election with Thomas Jefferson as your Democratic Republic and John Adams as your Federalist.
So he goes through and actually uses real historical characters as characters in his book. For instance, John Adams, Samuel Adams, these kind of people actually show up. George Washington. Actually, they did a sequence where Rush visits both Abigail Adams and her husband, John Adams, and shows some of the ways that women were able to function during the 18th century as well as men.
George Washington in it twice, once before he was president and once after.
And they spend some time with Thomas Jefferson.
And there is actually a picture of the house of John Adams. Like, it is not just like comedy. Tommy and Freedom were his original students, with him and Liberty, and Elizabeth is kind of like the bad guy. And then they added in Cam in the second book.
I believe that's right. Cam is the son of a soldier, and he's having difficulty with the fact that his father is overseas. And so the character of Rush takes him aside and helps him understand why our soldiers are important and what is the value of freedom.
You've got Elizabeth, and for a while there I was sad that my middle name was Elizabeth because Elizabeth was the school meanie.
Yeah, she was quite the character, but you got to have a little bit of a bad guy. She actually goes back to King George III, who was persecuting America when we decided to rebel.
And she was going to tell him about the Boston Tea Party.
Yes, she wanted to ingratiate herself to the king because he had power.
She's a little power hungry. She's the principal's daughter.
But the other girl that we see here is actually a homeschooler.
Yes. And she is seen at Washington National Monument.
Yes, they go to Washington, D.C., and that's where they meet a homeschooling family. And then they talk about homeschooling and how that is different from public schooling. So they touch on a lot of issues, always very appropriately in a way that will not be offensive, I think, to most of you. So we highly recommend that you read the Rush Revere books and enjoy learning about our history, which is a very important thing to us. America is a very dear treasure to us. Until we see you again,
make sure to make time for tea and a good book. Bye.